Hey everyone, welcome back to TV Guys, the show that will no longer be 2 hours long. I'm Matt,
I'm Brian.
and if you did not listen to our Lost podcast, we knew it'd be a long one.
Yeah.
In hindsight, we should have broken it up. But at the same time, it was a good episode, but it was a long one. So if you stuck through all of that, then get a gold star for yourself.
I remember way back in the early days of our podcast, it was a big deal when we broke over an hour once. I'm like, whoa. And now it's pretty regular to go over an hour. I don't think this one will be.
Yeah.
But it's not that. But this is the first time we ever broke 2 hours.
Yeah, you are probably going to look at the timestamp on this and be like, oh, that's how much. But I think I'm going to aim for like 30 to 45 minutes on this one. I think that's where we're going to land on it. And that's fine. After the gauntlet that was last week,
Yeah.
we can have a shorter one.
Yeah.
And if you listen at 2 times speed, then it's like 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it is now Christmas time. I think this should post after Thanksgiving if I got my schedule correct. If it hasn't, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. If it has, happy late Thanksgiving to everyone. But you know what? Just like every single retail store there is, we're on to Christmas right now.
I've given up on trying to figure out when these episodes will air. Matt's got it figured out. I just come on here and we'll talk about what we talk about. It'll go up when it goes up.
Go ahead.
Like, I edit the podcast, Matt posts it. So if it comes out at the wrong time, that's Matt's problem.
That's true. And if the editing is weird, it's still my problem because I could do it, but I don't. I'm lazy. Yeah. But anyway, hey, so because it's a Christmas season, I hope you are having a great winter season. I hope everything is happening the way you want it to and that you're going to get all the stuff you ever wanted for Christmas. If you are in the Rushford area, come see my wife and I and our son in It's a Wonderful Life radio show. We play George and Mary, so it's beautiful. And then Elijah gets to be like 5 or 6 different roles. It's a lot of fun.
You say radio show?
Yep. So it's actually it is in person, so it still is a performance, but we're gonna stand in front of mics and we're recording it we're doing it like we're recording a radio show, and there's someone who has like sound effects that you'll be able to see, like a whole sound effect, like a Foley artist in front of everyone, so you can watch how they do the sound effects and what they'd sound like. And actually, even for the show, it's kind of like we're portraying actors. We all have our actors' names. So it's like Matt Rodenberg is playing, I can't remember what my actor's name is. Matt Rodenberg is playing this person who's playing George Bailey on the radio. It's a unique concept, but it saves us on sets. So
I think you're always doing some kind of production, Matt.
Always. Never stops. Hashtag never stop, never stopping. But speaking of Christmas, that brings us to our idea for today, is because we wanted to look at what are some families or groups of friends or just TV casts, not like the actors, but like the TV characters. So if they're not specifically a group of friends, but they're the series regulars, what regulars would we want to spend Christmas with if we got sucked into the television screen? I have some different reasonings for different picks, and so I kind of went from a different point of view for stuff. I never went at the point of view as much as like food is an important part of your Christmas festivities. That was never where I started, because my wife, she was like, I think I would pick just Michael Berzowski or whatever from The Bear, and I would have him come join my family's Christmas, so we'd get good food, and then he'd see what a loving family looks like. And I'm like, that's boring. That's a boring answer.
Yeah, and I would never pick the Bear, because that means I have to be around Richie.
Man, I actually feel like of all the people on that show, I think I'd get along most with Richie, even though he's so abrasive. But he's better in season 2 and season 3.
Yeah, food was one consideration, but it wasn't the entire consideration for me.
Yeah, this is actually surprisingly hard, because there's a lot of families or groups of friends I'm like, I wouldn't want to spend time with. So I'll throw out for instance, I don't have on here the group of friends from Friends. Even though you might get along with them, I might get along with them. I really don't think I would. I think, first of all, they're at a different place in life than I am. Obviously, they're in their early 20s. Well, actually, they're in late 20s, early 30s throughout the course of the series.
Yeah, you're not that far away from them at the end of the series.
Yeah. But I mean, like having kids and especially having a preteen and then like higher aged
Yeah.
single digit kids, that's a very different, like having kids ages you so much. And so, it feels like you can feel like, oh, age wise, I'm close to 20s. And then you hang out with people who are really in their 20s. And you're like, I am nowhere near like, I have a completely different philosophy of life than you do right now.
Yeah.
Plus, I just think Ross and Rachel would be annoying. Monica would be too overbearing, and I wouldn't like that. I feel like I could get along well with Chandler and Joey, and then Phoebe would just be a little bit like, I don't really want to carry a conversation with her.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, if you think about holidays, and one thing that I kept getting into is a lot of the shows that I like, I mean, in order for an episode of TV to be interesting, something's got to happen. It's not just going to be a normal, like, hey, go ahead and go and hang out. Like, for instance, Community. All of their holiday episodes, like, someone gets into a fight, or they go and have a mental breakdown in claymation, or they go and start singing at the Glee Club. Like, I don't want to do any of that stuff. Like, maybe on a regular day, it'd be fun to hang out with those guys, but I don't want to do any of that holiday stuff. So,
thankfully, no matter who we're picking, we're only visiting. That's the silver lining of all of this,
which is important for some of my picks.
Yeah. So, for instance, for me, like I looking at families, I only have one. Like, well, I guess I have two technically because I have kind of half of one. I didn't think through it too much, but probably the family number one I might get along with the most would be the Baxters. I feel like Mike Baxter and we have similar enough philosophies that we get along.
Baxters, okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking Last Man Standing.
I was, for some reason, I would, it's also the Baxters on That's So Raven. I'm like, that's a really random pick, but that makes more sense for you. Last Man Standing.
No, I would not want those Baxters. Raven would always be convinced something was going to happen to me, and I would end up with like a bowl of pudding on my head or something.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, go ahead. The Baxters is a good pick.
Yeah, because I think, again, Mike Baxter and and you guys know, without getting too political, but like they're a conservative family. Well, he is a conservative father, and the oldest daughter is more liberal to balance out, and then
her husband is the liberal. She kind of stays out of it a little bit more.
Oh, because it kind of felt like she was.
She might have been, she might have been, but she was not nearly as outspoken. Like the son-in-law Ryan. He was kind of like the liberal mouthpiece as opposed to Mike, who's the most outspoken conservative.
It felt like when they recast her, I think they recasted her twice, right? And I think the first time when they recast
only
her,
once.
Only once. Okay. When they recast that daughter, like after the second season or something like that, this new actress, she brought a little bit more of that. I'm gonna align more politically with him, which is fine. That's that's just families having those sorts of conversations. But I think Mike, he's a Lions fan. No, he's a Broncos fan. I'm sorry, I'm confusing with Home Improvement.
Yeah.
But like we could both enjoy just sitting there watching football, having fun talking about. Like I'm not as outdoorsy as he is, but I think I could find enough common ground. I could get along with Mike. I could get along with the Kyle.
I was gonna say, you and Kyle could nerd out on your nerdy side too.
Yeah. And then even the Ryan, he's got a bit of a nerdy side too that I could find, I think, common ground with him, even if politically we're complete opposites. So I think there's a lot of fun to be had there. I just kind of also get the feeling that I can't remember the wife's name. What's her name?
Is it Vanessa? Is that the actress or the character? I think it's Vanessa.
Let's say it's Vanessa, and you guys can all fact check me out there. But I think between Vanessa and Mike, they're cooking whatever they do. I just have a feeling it would be really good home cooked food, and we'd enjoy it. So that's where that's my big family that I would probably pick.
Yeah, I agree. I like that show. That was a good show, and I like how they poke fun of themselves because they actually got canceled and they got picked up by a different network. And when they come back, they said something like, like there's nothing on this TV anymore. We'll switch it to the good channel. And they switch it and you hear the theme song from the show playing. Like
Tim Allen, especially in this show, like he's always been a little meta. But in this show, he's like, yeah, I'm going to just really rejoice in my career. And I'm going to do as many callbacks as I want to.
I mean, to the point where, I mean, obviously you have a number of Home Improvement cameos that come in, and then to make it like to put a hat on a hat, they have him come and do the whole thing where he's in the scene as two different characters, and Tim Taylor comes to visit.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Yeah.
I never watched that episode, but I saw it advertised.
Mm-hmm.
Your voice makes it sound like it didn't go well, but
I mean, it was okay. I mean, because they also were shining in like they were shoehorning in, that's the word, a tribute to Earl Hindman, who played Wilson. Because at one point, the Tim Taylor version, there's not a fence, but there's something blocking his face, and he's saying like, "Oh, I remember my old neighbor Wilson," because he had passed away.
Yeah.
But they've had Al and Jill and Randy all on there.
Yeah. I definitely remember Randy because he left Home Improvement because Jonathan Taylor Thomas was doing great, and then he grew up and then didn't do so much. So he was a little cheaper option to come back.
You know what I just watched the other day? I'll Be Home for Christmas, the Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Jessica Biel Christmas movie from the 90s.
And that's noteworthy because we're recording this early November. So it's like you might hear this out there and be like, "Oh yeah, mid-December. Yeah, I guess that's a Christmas movie." No, this is early November, which I've already watched 2 Christmas movies so far, so I can't judge, but I'm just noting.
I already have my Christmas tree up, as Mac can see behind me.
Same. Angie put it up yesterday because she had the day off.
I put mine up last week. I win.
You did.
Although done. Rizdal's already beat me, though. They put up even earlier than I did.
And I know some people that's harassing you, like, just wait for Thanksgiving. And I don't know if you saw this TikTok. There's this guy who's going on a rant. He's like, hey, if Jesus can take a break for 3 days and then come back again, we can be celebrating Christmas, take a break for a couple days, celebrate Thanksgiving, and just go right back into Christmas afterwards. I'm like, I don't know if that logic tracks, but I'm going to use it as an excuse. That's fine.
I like that. Yeah. All right. So, interesting thing. So, when we do this recording, we're on StreamYard, and sometimes we'll give ourselves little names that somehow correlate to the episode. And Matt's name is called Nowhere Near a Barone Christmas.
No way.
Which is interesting because that is my first pick, which is Everybody Loves Raymond with the Barones, because I'm visiting. The whole thing about Ray and Deborah, they have to live day in and day out across from her parents, or across from his parents, with them barging in all the time. That would be awful. But if you're going there for a day, you're going to get Marie's food. You can chill with Frank and watch TV. You're not going to be involved in any of the drama because you're the guest.
That's not true. How about the time when the priest came to visit because like in the flashback episode when he was supposed to be there to stop like Deborah and Ray from having sex for the first time before they were married, and so Marie orchestrated this whole dinner, and they're having this huge fight, and they're like freaking out, and then the priest stands up, he's like, "Hey, is there even a lasagna here?" or whatever the food was that they were serving. It's like, it doesn't matter how much of you're a bystander. You get sucked into it. You saw that like blank face of Amy, that one episode where like everyone's fighting and then she's just like her brain shut off. Like, are we really having this fight on a holiday or like whatever it was?
Well, Amy was potentially and eventually did marry into the family. I'm not trying to marry into the family. And unlike you, I'm not a pastor. No one's trying to get me to come over to stop sex.
Well, Gianni came over for dinner once and he left because it was like really awkward at a certain point, and like he was being used as I can't remember the exact episode, but do you remember what I'm talking about?
I get that. But here's a surefire way to avoid the drama. Hang out with the kids and everyone will ignore you.
Their kids are annoying though.
The kids were barely even characters. Like they were just in the background. They were filler because Ray Romano has kids in real life, and they were modeling after his life. Like they were, except for a couple episodes here and there. Like, we shoot an episode about the kids. Other than those few episodes, they were basically just set dressing.
Yeah, but the twins, like their caricature was be loud and obnoxious. Allie had a little bit more, especially as she turned into a preteen, and they gave her just a little bit in some of the episodes. But I like between the kids, between Robert's moping and his inferiority complex, and like maybe Ray and Deborah might be okay, but it depends on the day. Some days they let their drama get the best of them, and then that's not talking about the anchors of Frank and Marie for the craziness.
True.
You and I can agree the food would be tremendous.
Yes, if Marie cooked it.
Yeah, that's fair. Unless it's her tofu turkey.
Oh yeah. I forgot for a second there. I totally forgot about that. It came in and jiggled like Jello.
How would you feel if that was the Christmas that you were visiting for?
I would be like Ron Swanson when he didn't get his steak and he's like, "Give me all the bacon and eggs you have," because Chris tried to serve him a mushroom.
Oh, Ron, if it was just people, I don't know if I'd want to spend a whole night with just Ron, because I think we both would be annoyed with each other by the end of the night. But we could agree on where to eat. That's where we land. All right, what do you like about the Barones? Is there anything else that you want to share about why you chose the Barones?
I just think they're entertaining. I still think I wouldn't be in the drama, and the food would be good. That's kind of what I was thinking. And I don't know. I just also like the show. Which
here's my other thought with this too, and why I thought maybe like Baxter's were a good pick, and some of my other picks, is that Christmas. Yeah, it's Christmas dinner is big, but then there's also the presents and there's the games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, you're giving presents for them or you're getting presents. And I don't know if I could enjoy a night outside of like the actual tasting of the food with the Barones. I just don't think there's too much social lubricant there to be able to have a good time.
Might be the first time the word lubricant's been used on this podcast, but I get your point.
Maybe. I'll throw another family, and this I said in beforehand. I was like, I have a couple like 4.5 picks, because this is my half pick because I haven't watched this show in a long time. But I think, and again, I'm going back to the parents. I think I could really get along with the Cosbys, the fictional Cosbys. Let's be clear.
The Huxtables, you mean, not the Cosbys. The Huxtables.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. The Huxtables. Thank you. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. The Huxtables, because I think both Cliff and Claire are a great dynamic personality. I know Claire is very put together and she's a lot more uptight, but she's a very respectable woman. And I have a lot of respect for a woman who carries herself that way. And so I absolutely think that I could get along. Maybe I'd be a little bit too much of a goof for her. I don't know. But hey, she's married to a goofball. So I feel like I could get along with both of them. Yeah. I think I could get along well with Theo and Vanessa. And then like the kids, the kids are just there.
Yeah. Well, also, it could depend on where in the show, because Theo in the beginning is like 14 and by the end he's in his 20s. So that's a very different age range, but I can see that they're not so goofy that it's like unrealistically like crazy. They're a normal family who gets into crazy stuff sometimes.
Exactly. I don't remember a lot of episodes anyway, because it was one that I watched as a kid, and it just because it's not in syndication anymore. It's hard to draw back on some of those specifics, but the stuff that I do remember, I just feel like Theo and Vanessa were just very like, because I'm a youth pastor and like I work with teens, so it's like any of in that teen age. I feel like I could get along with them. I could get along with the parents. I think I'd have a fun time, and then I'd also get the little feel like white guilt, feeling good, be like, hey, I spent a dinner with a black family. I got invited over. I was the token white guy there, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. You'd be like Wallace Shawn, who was like the only recurring white character. It was like their neighbor and like, would pop in every now and then. Like everybody else that show, like I can't think of another regular white character on the Cosby Show.
Yeah. But Wallace Shawn does a lot of heavy lifting for us, so he's pretty great.
The only real episode I think it was a Thanksgiving episode, and it was they had like a lot of people. I think like Theo's college friends were over, and the extended family were over, and Cliff kept having to go to the store to pick something up. I forget what it was, and it's like he was like never got to like relax and hang out because like he kept having to leave and come back, and it was like raining and storming, so the door would open, and he'd be standing there soaking wet with like with a bag. I got this, and then like that was the whole thing. He kept having to leave. And I'm sure there's
Man,
more to the story, but I don't remember.
If I can meet Wallace Shawn as a added benefit to this, that's just icing on the cake there.
Yeah.
All right, who else do you got?
The next one I have, I also have a black family. Ha! I like black people
Winslow's.
too. I know. I considered them the Banks from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Okay.
Because it's a similar vibe. Because you could really do any of those kind of '90s TGIF families. I considered them. I considered the Tanners. But I'm thinking, you have Jeffrey, and you wouldn't. I mean, Jeffrey could do all. I mean, you wouldn't have to clean up. You wouldn't have to do that. You have somebody like waiting on you who's getting paid. I should clarify, and and the food would be good, and Will would be interesting. Will would be cool to hang out with. Yeah, Will and Jazz and Ashley are pretty normal. I don't know, maybe not Carlton or Hillary, but I feel like it would be an interesting, fun group to hang out with.
Yeah, it's a unique dynamic, but Will and Carlton and Uncle Phil are all just like dynamic characters, and it would just be fun to. I feel like you could get along well with Will and Carlton, and you can relate well to Phil. And I didn't watch it enough to know much more of the different characters and their dynamics, but I think all three of those would be fun to get along with.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they're really rich. They're gonna have good food.
Exactly. That's they have Jeffrey paid to make the food for them.
And if they're giving you presents, you're gonna get a nice present. It's gonna be hard to give them something like they probably aren't gonna want it anyway. But
well, it depends on who's giving the presents, because like Carlton, his whole thing is that he's like rich and stingy, and he would not want to part with his money. But like Phil and Vivian, they'd give you a good gift. They'd welcome you in as a good guest.
Yeah, I would imagine it'd be like you have something for the family. The family has a gift for you instead of just one for every single person.
And can you guess what person who would later on become president made a cameo appearance on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Let me guess. Is it Mr. Donald Trump?
It is. And guess who was super into it was Carlton.
Makes sense. Yeah, there's a lot of those TGIF families that I thought about that I didn't watch enough Family Matters to have that, or Fresh Prince. I saw a little bit of Boy Meets World, Full House, but that's way too many kids. I think I don't think I could handle that much. Mm-hmm. Boy Meets World, I thought about. Do you have the Matthews as one of your families?
I don't. I wanted to. I only have one in that kind of category, but I consider them. I consider the Matthews and the Huxtables and the Winslows and the Tanners, but I landed on the Banks for my pick.
And that's probably a better pick, because Alan and Amy, I think in real life would be kind of flat. Maybe I'd get along with them. I feel like we'd be cordial. I don't know if I'd have fun,
Yeah.
So speaking of fun, though, so then I moved into groups of friends. I have two for a group of friends, and then I've got like one that's, I wouldn't call them friends, you'll see. So one of my groups of friends, I do think I could enjoy a New Girl Christmas.
For some reason, as you were talking, I was thinking of New Girl.
I mean, Nick is like my spirit animal. Like we both get mad at stupid stuff. We both are disappointed year after year by the Chicago Bears. We both like. He's more conspiracy theory on like stuff than I am, but we both have like a healthy distrust of some government stuff and like people in charge, and that it would be fun to like laugh about those things and joke about, or to try and get him riled up too. And because Nick and I are so similar, that means I feel like I would be able to get along really well with Schmidt, and so those two for sure. And then I'd enjoy Winston. He might be a little like, what the heck is this guy in real life? And then I think I could get along fine enough with Jessica and Cece.
See, for me, I would go the route of I would probably connect more with Winston, I think the most, and then get along with the rest of them. Cece is probably the most normal of them. I feel like unless you have a specific reason you're gonna get along with her, Jess might be a little bit much because she's always extra, and same with Schmidt in a different way. But Schmidt's going to make good food, again, if you're going the food route, and Jess is gonna have like the personalized gifts and games and all of that, and then Nick and Winston will be fun to hang out with, and then Cece will just kind of be there, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's a really good dynamic, and I think I could have a fun Christmas with them.
I'd prefer the seasons that don't have Coach, though.
Now, I'm not a drinker, but I don't think I could like join in, but I want to see how True American is played. I would be up for a game of True American, even though I'd have to tell them I'm sorry I don't drink. That might throw off their entire group, and they might all hate me for it. But I want to see it. I want to see the game in action with the rules.
Yeah, because they never really get a full explanation of the game, which I think is like the joke of it.
Yeah. So that's the added bonus of being at New Girl Christmas.
Yeah.
I got 2 left. How many left do you have?
I only have 1 more left, but I can probably come up with more if I needed to.
Okay, I'll hit 1 more friend group, and then sure. You can go ahead and do yours. Because the other friend group, this is less about personality and more about common interest. And so I would say the Big Bang Theory group. Our food wouldn't be great. We'd probably actually order Chinese, Thai, or like pizza or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think there'd be any home cooking done. But I think we would have a lot of fun because like we play similar games. We can talk about like all the nerdy stuff and really go deep into those. I don't have a ton. I got enough, but I don't have like a wealth of friends. I'm like, let's go real deep with this nerdiness.
Yeah.
And then there's also, they love those like complex board games. I love those. I don't have too many people that I play those with anymore. So that would be fun.
That's true. So I like games. I like nerdiness. When it comes to games, you're definitely more deep than I am because I'm one. If it's a super complicated game, I'm going to be lost for a little bit. And it takes me a bit to get it. Like I forget, you and I have played some games where I am completely lost in friends. You're like, oh, you gotta do this and this and this, and then this card tells you this, and this card tells you this, and you're acting like this is super simple. And I'm like, I feel like this will be fun once I get it, but I don't get it.
I don't want to do this anymore, Matt. Do I have to keep playing? Yes.
Because sometimes those games can be really fun once you get into them. I know, like, one game that I used to play with, like, Mike and his wife were Seven Wonders, which was complicated at first, and now it's fun. I'm guessing you've played that, right?
Yeah, so Seven Wonders I'd put just a little bit more complicated than Catan. I think Settlers of Catan is a really good introduction to that tier of games. It's more complicated than, say, Monopoly or Life or whatever, but it's not as complicated as some of these like books where these games where you have like a booklet that you have to read first before you can play the game. So
I actually just last week, and this took me months. I finished a full Big Bang Theory rewatch, which the last couple seasons were kind of just more of the same at that point. But there's an episode where they're over at Howard and Bernadette's house, and Sheldon has like the floor is covered with this super elaborate train game, which can't be real because he's like, yeah, it probably takes like 8 days to play, and here's like everything's super elaborate, and everyone's like, oh, you can play for me, and like he is just like all he wants to do is play the stupid train game, and I could see Matt would you would at least try.
Oh yeah, I'd be there. Like, all right, let's read this 30-page novel here, and then we'll get to the game.
Did you hear that we have another Big Bang Theory spinoff coming?
Do we?
It's going to be following Stuart and his girlfriend Lauren Lapkus, who played his girlfriend at the end, and Bert, who was played by Brian Posehn.
Isn't that one? What is the? There's a new show like so and so's first year of marriage or something. Is that out
Georgie
of the
and Mandy? Yeah, well, because you had Young Sheldon, which actually that was a pretty good show, which was the prequel. Georgie is Sheldon's older brother, and he got married towards the end of the series, and then now it's a spinoff with those characters. So it's Georgie and Mandy's first wedding. So it's like within the Big Bang Theory universe, it's following Sheldon's brother. But since Sheldon's brother in Big Bang Theory had already been it's clarified that he'd been divorced twice, we know they're not going to stay married, but this is their first marriage.
Oh, nice. That's always happy.
But however, they could play with it because I remember in Big Bang Theory. I just watched it recently when Sheldon's sister Missy had a baby, and they're all like, "Oh, it's going to be Uncle Sheldon for the first time." Well, in Young Sheldon, which is taking place in the '90s when he's a teenager, his older brother also has a baby, which means theoretically Sheldon's been an uncle the entire time of Big Bang Theory, but no one ever mentions her. So I think that was retconned.
How dare they not follow their complicated lore that is sprawling.
And well, it's funny, like Young Sheldon started during the last like 2 seasons of Big Bang Theory, so there's a little bit of overlap, and you can see the last 2 seasons there is a little bit more overlap. Like Sheldon sees a video from his younger self and sees a video of like his dad, and they finally they wait until Young Sheldon was already on the air to cast an adult version of Sheldon's older brother Georgie, and so actually the adult version was trying to play like an older version of the kid version, whereas like Sheldon's sister Missy had been cast in The Big Bang Theory and then was younger version. They were like, this sounds complicated, but it's just, you can see how, if you're still listening, it's they're interesting. I've watched them all.
Listening. That's a great qualifier.
They're interesting shows together. I think they're worth a watch. Maybe not a second watch, but they're worth a watch.
Yeah. I watched halfway through Big Bang Theory, and then I was like, this is too much of the same. And then I eventually came back to it and watched the whole thing, and I'm like, yeah, I did it. All right.
Young Sheldon, towards the last couple of seasons of Young Sheldon, I really liked a lot. But I liked it for everyone other than Sheldon.
Well, there you go.
Well, like, Annie Potts plays his grandma, and Craig T. Nelson plays her boyfriend. They were hilarious.
Those are good actors. I like Annie and Craig.
And do you know who else played Sheldon's college professor who dated his grandma? Wallace Shawn.
More Wallace Shawn? Inconceivable!
He's in everything.
He is. Angie and I just watched The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel from front to back recently, and he's a recurring character. Probably about 6 episodes of the 40 episodes total that there are.
Okay. Was that good? I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things.
It's good. It is very Amy Sherman Palladino. Yep. The third there's 5 seasons. The 4th season was a huge disappointment to me from the third, because the 3rd season was pretty good, and then 5th season it regained some footing. But 1 through 3 are really good, and 5 is decent.
That's Alex Borstein, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And she's tremendous in her role. Both her and Tony Shalhoub are fantastic. Rachel Brosnahan is pretty good too as the lead. But yeah, Alex and Tony steal the show in nearly every scene that they're in.
Nice.
So go watch that. All right, what do you got for your final pick?
My final pick is purely on having a fun environment to hang out with. It's kind of a left field pick. Get me with the boarding house of Hey Arnold. I feel like that would be hilarious to hang out with. And then you can go outside and like hang out in the New York, suburb area and hang out with the kids and just kind of check out those streets. But all the people who live in that house, there's the Asian guy, that like the Polish couple, Arnold's grandparents are hilarious. I feel like it would be a good time. I have no idea what the food would be like, but it would be a good time.
And then you just bring Cards Against Humanity and play that with that group and see what happens.
That would be a good group for that.
That is the most chaotic Christmas. Well, actually, Community with that would be no, because you're used to it. These upright people playing Cards Against Humanity, I think, has more chaotic energy.
We don't need to give Pierce any more ammo to be inappropriate.
That's true. Like, and any of these shows was like everyone is terrible. Like It's Always Sunny or Arrested Development or whatever. Like the chaos is their personalities. It doesn't matter what activity they're doing. They're going to make it chaotic. So if you bring a chaotic activity into a chaotic group, it might actually end up being normal.
That's true. We might balance each other out.
There's a weird logic to that, and I'm sticking to it. Taking it to my grave.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
I
and
had one animated show that was Hey Arnold.
I didn't have any animated. I thought about a couple, but I'm like, you know, like going to the Jetsons, yeah, it'd be cool to be in the future. Going to the Flintstones would suck to be in the past. Neither of those families I'm like too big about. Simpsons are just another chaotic family. Depends on the time of
Yeah.
day and what you're gonna get out of them. I
Mhm.
like there's not to me an animated family that I'd be like, yeah,
Ooh,
that'd be fun.
maybe Bob's Burgers.
I thought about them too. He'd make a good food. He'd make a good food. But the family, I don't think I could handle.
I like their family is chaotic in a good way. I mean, Gene and Louise would be hilarious.
I I don't know. I feel and is it Tina's the other one?
Tina's the awkward one.
Oh yeah, no. So Louise, I feel like Gene and Louise could like burn everything down. Like it's if there is a non-0% chance of chaos and destruction and possible death, I don't think I want to be at that Christmas.
Okay, well you're never at a 0% chance with any TV show because how many unrealistic crazy things happen at TV shows?
Nothing. No,
And
the Baxters have never had the threat of death looming over their house.
and have you ever on Christmas Day looked outside your grandparents' house to see that the neighbor across the street has their garage completely engulfed in flames? Because I have, and so that stuff happens in real life. It was a weird.
That's a weird flex, brother.
I don't know if it's a flex, but I'm just saying it. It's like it's a crazy destructive sitcom thing that I witnessed in real life.
That's fair. Here's a group. Same thing as like the setting would be great. I like the characters, so it's why I chose this iteration of it. But I think the setting also is what really appeals to me. But I would want to spend Christmas with the cast of Star Trek Next Generation.
Okay.
First of all, they have their food replicators, so you can get anything you want. So I mean, like you'd have all the classic stuff, but if you're like, I actually want a prime rib dinner instead, prime rib is a fantastic option for Christmas. Not super popular, but it's a fantastic option. I would get that. I would take that over turkey any day of the week. And I they never have outright said this, but they've had a couple times in shows allude to like maybe the food replicator isn't as good as like actually making the food in person, which I could absolutely understand. But at the same time, can you really have bad prime rib? I don't know. So get some good food in there. They have a holodeck. And so anything that you can imagine, any program that you'd want to do and you can have fun with your group and you want a white Christmas, throw the holodeck on and you're eating it out in a white Christmas. You want a sunny beach Christmas, go on the beach Christmas that you want. And then that isn't like that's not even talking about the great characters. I think like they're all really honorable people. There's a little bit of like the joking and sarcastic. You can see that they can have fun. There's some episodes where like it'll start off they're all in a poker game, and so like trying to teach Data how to play poker and bluff, and like Riker's really good at it and Worf is terrible and they all take his money, and like they kind of like are really good friends in that regard. And so being able to be a part of that, there's a lot of good possibility. I know Picard is very stoic and he'd be a little harder to crack as a nut, but I think I could get along well with Geordi, Data, Riker, and Beverly and Worf. Did I say him?
Yeah. So we know that Star Trek is one of my biggest blind spots as far as media goes. So the holodeck can it also like simulate people like who aren't there? You can simulate
Yeah.
any environment. Which okay, that means that your pick can encompass all other picks because you can go into the holodeck and say, "Give me the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air living room."
Exactly.
So basically, okay, it's kind of like a cheat. It's kind of like the wishing for more wishes thing. Because you could just go through it and go through all of our picks in that one pick.
There's a reason I saved this for last, and like sometimes we play this game as we're doing this episode where it's like, hey, who's gonna win sort of thing. I'm like, this is it's my win pick, but at the same time, you're right. It's kind of cheating, but it's still like there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of fun things you can do. And so it'd be fun to be on that ship.
I didn't know we were competing.
I'm not treating it that way. I am naturally competitive, so there's a little
Yeah.
bit of me like, not what would I want, but what's the right choice. And I put that side away for this prompt. But if anything, that if there's any pick that I have that plays into that a little bit, then it's this pick. Well, that's all the picks I've got. I know that my last pick, if he's listening, would appeal to one of our guests, Mike Campbell,
Yeah.
and I don't think he would pick this, but I think the people he might enjoy spending a Christmas with the Hawkeye, or not Hawkeye. I'm sorry, the MASH cast, including Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Probably not like, because I don't think he wants to get transported to the Korean War in the 70s, but he
Probably
might
not.
enjoy their personalities. I don't know. I just want to give a shout out to Mike. We like him.
We do like Mike. MASH is another one of my blind spots. I've seen only scenes here and there of MASH. I've never actually seen a full episode. Sorry,
Yeah.
Mike.
It's good. Like, you watch it now and it still holds up, but it is definitely dated. There's those shows, like even those ones that we love from the 90s. You show it to your kids and they'll be like, well, this is old and crappy. I'm like, it's not crappy. It's well, maybe it's a little crappy, but it's good. Well, let's jump into trivia, because last week we had our special guest on, Tanner, first time on the show, and he was with us for our Lost episode. So one of the characters we talked about is Sawyer, played by Josh Holloway, and Josh Holloway, when he auditioned for Sawyer, he actually, before I hit the trivia, he actually, I believe that the position like that character wasn't even supposed to be Southern. I think he was supposed to be like from Pittsburgh or something like that.
Yeah, I think
And,
he was
like,
supposed to be like a New York slick guy, like that kind of.
yeah, because I think Jorge Garcia auditioned for that part too.
Yeah, he did.
They
Yeah.
did they write Hurley for him when they saw his audition?
I believe they did. He was one of the first people cast.
Okay, because like I know a couple, like I think Sun. I can't remember what the actress's name was when she auditioned
Kim,
for
yeah,
Kate,
she did audition for Kate. Yeah,
and I think they wrote Sun for her after she auditioned for Kate.
I'm not sure.
I know that they did a look, because like they had like a 3 or 4, well, not 3 or 4. They had a little bit more than that, but they had a few spots early on that like, these are our characters, and they had all these people audition, like, these are really good. So Josh Holloway changed the idea of Sawyer, same with Jorge Garcia getting his own character written in. But in the in the audition, which is what actors call interviews, he did something that got him the role. And so that was Tanner's question. What did he do? Well, he forgot his lines in the middle of the audition. And so in his frustration, he kicked a chair, but then he remembered after doing that what the line was, and he was able to continue on in the scene. And the producers really liked the edge. They also liked the Southern accent, of course, but they liked the edge that he brought to that character. And they're like, all right, this guy has to be in the show. So that's what got him the part.
So it just goes to show, if you're in an audition, just throw a little violence in there.
Between that and the Leslie David Baker, like, being frustrated because he got stuck in traffic on the way and it was late to the audition, and they liked his grumpiness, like, it might behoove you to not be a happy camper when you're at an audition. I don't know. I guess it depends on the part.
Yeah, that's very true. All right, so for this week of trivia, Matt's pick was Last Man Standing, and Matt mentioned that one of the daughters getting recast. But how many characters in this show ended up getting recast throughout the series? And that is our trivia question.
Was it just in the family, or are you including, because I think some other characters, but not in the family, got recast too, right? Or am I wrong?
I don't think anyone outside the family. There's a little hint for you guys. All of the characters that I am thinking of are members of the family.
Sounds good. Well, there you go. I helped you get a hint. All right. You weren't going to have that before I opened my fat mouth. So yeah, you're welcome. I'm making it easier for you. Well, it's the most wonderful time of the year. And so it's time to get back to our families and enjoying the rest of our Christmas season. Until next time, I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And remind you to have a Merry Christmas and stay tuned and keep watching.